All right, so I'm here with Fox, and we're gonna have a look at our version of Blue-White Dreadstill, and we're gonna do a match analysis. So, welcome aboard, Fox.
Hey, nice to meet you. And just introduce yourself again and kind of say how long you've been playing the deck.
So I have been on Blue-White Dreadstill just for the last year. I was kind of looking for a legacy deck to play, and I didn't want to go for one of these decks that were popular in the moment, which was like Snow Oko kind of deck. So I was looking around the MTG The Source for a deck that made me feel something, and I ran into your, well, not your exactly, but a thread discussing the Dreadstill deck, where you were very active, and I asked for access to your Discord server, and since then I've been working together with you to make a good deck and discuss strategy and tactics and all that. And you? Have you been on the deck for a while?
Yeah. So this is really the only deck I've played in Legacy. Different permutations. I consider all permutations of Dreadnought and Standstill to be the same deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been on that since I came back to Magic, since around cons. So that was the miserable counterbalance top era. Yeah, in terms of the Discord, really quick, anyone can message me on MTG The Source or Pip Roberts there. Is your name Pip Roberts on The Source?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, you can just message us over in the Dreadstill forum if you want access to the actual Discord. It's a private Discord. But this deck begins basically around the time that they print Mastery of the Unseen, which is still in the deck, over there in the sideboard somewhere.
Yeah. Let's see if
And so that kind of, you understand Legacy back when you were getting him Snapcastered nonstop and you were getting Counterbalance topped nonstop. You understand that the only way to play against these kinds of destructive forces is to put cards directly into play off the top of the library.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where Mastery of the Unseen kind of started the ideas of the deck. So this deck's actually pretty old. I've got a huge boost with the printing of the Little Teferi, and it got another massive boost with the printing of Scroll of Fate. And so that's the core of the deck right now.
Sure.
But yeah, we can kind of talk about it here.
Mm-hmm.
Prismatic Vista was a huge change for us. That cut so many losses out of our deck.
Yeah.
Just a man.
Why?
We used to have to play 2 Tundra.
Mm-hmm.
So why?
Yeah.
There were just so many games where you just lost because Tundra was in your opening hand because you played 2, or you just could never fetch your basic white because you had a bad off-color fetch, and that was the number 1 killer of the deck.
Sure. So we are kind of making it safe against all the wasteland strategies, yeah.
It's that, yeah, and it's the ability to plan multiple turn lines is what you get from Prismatic Vista.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to play 4 Flooded Strand, 4 Vistas, but they printed Timeless Dragon, and it changes the rules on fetch lands a little bit. And basically the rule with Timeless Dragon is you need to play the number of dragons you have plus 2 in terms of cards that have the word planes on them.
Yeah.
So we went back up from 1 Tundra up to 2, and we've got our 2 stock planes. And then it lets us play with the fetch numbers, and we've been able to drive down the Prismatic Vistas.
If I remember correctly, in the former version of the deck, we were just running the 1 planes as well, were we?
We were running 1 planes in the original,
Mm-hmm.
And then when they printed Vista, we moved to 2 and Verdict.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But there's a card missing. Why aren't we running Ponder?
This Ponder should never be played with Standstill. We'll actually see a match here against a blue-red Stifle Knot deck at some point, and I'll just kind of point out every problem that Ponder has, and how much of a glass cannon it can make you.
Right.
The other thing about Ponder, two things that it does. Number one, you get to cheat on land total, which we are not doing. And number two, you get to cheat on colors, and you cast really greedy stuff and be like Ragavan into Library into Expressive Iteration, just spells that don't make sense. And the only way you get away with that is Ponder. So if you're not cheating on land totals or land color or spell color, there's really nothing you gain from Ponder.
Right. You're mostly durdling and trying to find cards that you might draw anyway, or you're losing velocity and committing to stuff without gaining any real advantage, right?
Yeah, I mean, roughly the way the Ponder is played is you identify a fire design, whatever fire stands for. But basically, they printed Uro, I need to be able to cast it. I'm going to make Ponder, use Ponder to find the mana to cast that. And I'm just going to keep chasing Mythic Rares all over the format the moment that they're printed, and use Ponder to get the mana to cast them. But what's really important there is that you're finding a one-card combo. So it's fine there. If you're finding Okos, you're finding Dreadhordes, Ragavans, Uros, it's fine. Ponder's fine. But when you start doing things like with Dreadnought or Standstill, super, super important that you're actually creating some plan down the line.
Are there any other interesting choices in the deck that you want to touch on?
Yeah, so a lot of this is about mana when you're talking about Standstill.
Yeah.
And just understand that if you play Standstill and you are not playing either Timeless Dragon or 4 copies of Prismatic Vista, you are almost certainly bleeding 5 to 10% of your win rate just because you didn't play Vista. So Vista is a game changer. So we have 7 perk fetches. We count Timeless Dragon kind of as a fetch land.
Yes.
We have 3 basic islands, 2 basic plains, a Caracas, normal stuff. We play 2 Tundras. Again, that's that Dragons +2 plains rule. And we play 3 Wastelands because we are a mana denial deck.
Yes.
And then we have Hall of Storm Giants, which is a really, really good man land. One of the best they've printed in a long time. So you want to talk about the recent man lands?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting choice because normally we would have played the factories, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones that are kind of out there in the discussion are Mishra's Factory, and then there's Urza's Saga, and then there is Field of the Dead, which we ran as a 1-of for a little bit, and then now Hall of Storm Giants, which we're running a 2-of.
Yes.
So yeah, there's all these manlands have a lot of discussion about them, but one of the main things is that traditionally for about 20 years you had to run 3 Mishra's Factories, which is pretty tough on the mana with 3 Wastelands.
Yeah, that's
and the moment that they started printing these better manlands, you could cut away those Mishras, those 3 slots, and you could just have 2 slots of cards. And so you're always looking for what's the 2-of manland that I can get away with.
Yeah. So what's so great about Hall of Storm Giants?
Yeah, so a lot of people that see Hall of Storm Giants just go, oh, it's just a really bad Celestial Colonnade. That's incredibly incorrect. One of the things you need to understand is that if you are animating a manland for 5 or 6 mana, you are saying that you are doing this in response to your opponent playing Planeswalker, which means they are tapping down very low at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
So number one, whatever manland you're putting online, it better one-shot that Planeswalker. And number 2, they are not allowed to hold up a plow and just kill your manland and keep their Planeswalker. Colonnade is not a good card. If they play a Planeswalker, they need 4 mana to kill a Hall of Storm Giants.
Right.
or they just straight up lose their Planeswalker. Not for loyalty, the whole card.
Yeah. So basically they need 8 mana to cast Jace safely, which
Correct.
is not realistic.
Yep.
Right.
And as far as Ward goes, people like playing Abrupt Decay and going, that's good against Ward. Abrupt Decay has a little bit of a problem targeting lands, as does Prismatic Ending.
Yeah.
So, also fun.
And also, I think the thing that really convinced me is that we're not really playing any... I mean, we do have the combo finish with the Dreadnought, but it's not for every game, right?
Oh, no.
So this is the win con that we need. Under a standstill, it's perfect. We can duke it out with an attacking Uro, and we can finish a game.
Yeah, it does play in a head-to-head against Uro. That's a pretty important point. 7/7 is bigger than 6/6.
Yeah. So I think it's great for this deck, because it's like you don't need to be looking for a win con, because you already got one in your land pile eventually when you need it. So and again, talk to me a little bit about the Timeless Dragon, Shark Typhoon, how many to run, and the friction between the both and all that.
Yeah, so one of the most important concepts to understand that I think a lot of people miss in deck construction is that the harder you go on something, right now you're seeing it with Urza Saga. The harder you go on Urza Saga, the easier you die. Very easy to just throw an Alpine Moon down against Urza Saga decks and wipe them out. Very easy to dress them down and wipe them out. Very easy to Teferi bounce. Like, so many problems. Pithing Needle, another one. And so when you go things like 4 Sharks, you're just telling your opponent to surgical you. And you're not going to get much out of it.
Right.
The other thing is that people that play 4 Shark decks, and you can see it a lot in like a Bosch and Roll channel, is you see a lot of the quote-unquote value Shark, or the cycle, put a 1/1 in front of a 3/2 Delver, just so you can use your mana, because your deck doesn't have plays. That's not a good trade. And so that's kind of the reason for splitting. The other thing about the Timeless Dragon is, of course, it's actually part of your mana base, which is pretty important. Pretty important consideration. So does that?
Yeah, it's like mana fixing.
Very different cards. Go ahead.
No, it's like mana fixing, and it works very well with the standstill. I mean, the added benefit to the mana fixing is, okay, I got a standstill down, and now I have a 4/4 beater, so you need to react and possibly crack the standstill, and I'm ahead on cards. I mean, that's what you want, right? With the standstill, is to force the opponent to react.
Yep.
And the Shark Typhoon does not. I mean, sometimes it's awesome, because if you have a lot of mana, you can make a big beater and possibly draw the card you need. But usually, at least in the early game, you do need lands.
The other thing that's super important just in Standstill in general, which Standstill should for the most part be a 2-color deck. If you want a 3rd color, you're largely going to be saying that color is coming online at 3 mana and not really before that. But one of the most important things is whatever your secondary color is, in the case of this deck, obviously white, you need white lands to find blue lands. That's critically important, and that's something that Timeless Dragon does when it fetches a Tundra.
Right. You want to touch on the sideboard before we check the match that we want to highlight?
Yeah, let's just go over the main deck here real quick. So yeah, we have 4 swords, 4 brainstorm, 3 stifle. We're a mana denial deck. That goes to the 3 wastelands. We have 3 dreadnoughts, which is the right amount. Anytime that you think about a list that plays 4 dreadnoughts, I can guarantee you that's wrong. Take out that 4th dreadnought, save yourself $120, and buy a Karn, because you're going to be a lot better off if you just do that. In the 2-drop slot, we have a Dress Down. We have a Search for Ascanta. We have a couple of Standstills, 3 of them. In the 3-drop, Sivin's Reclamation. You're playing a white deck and you don't have Sivin's ×1. You better have a really convincing reason why that card's not in your deck. Card is insane, especially against Daze. Because it's a pretty free use of 3 mana to bridge up to 4. Force Negation ×2. 3 Teferis, because we're the best Teferi deck in the format. We have Manlands, we can use the passive. We have Scroll of Fate, we can use the passive. Everyone else thinks that Teferi's this good, like general value card, but like no, this is about the passive. If you can't use the passive, you shouldn't play this card.
Right.
You've got the Scroll of Fate, which is a huge game changer. If you're playing a Dreadnought deck and you don't have Scroll of Fate, you are like, there's a 99.999% chance that you are just straight up wrong. That is, if you don't understand what this card does for the deck, I just don't even know how to correct that.
No,
that
it's amazing. It's everything that you want, because when we look at the sideboard, you're gonna see the Canonist and all that. It's just amazing.
Yeah, so Scroll of Fate is very importantly, it's instant speed. Remember the cost of morphing something face down is 3, and Scroll of Fate can do that every single turn. So what you're basically doing is you're paying 3 mana for a Mishra's Workshop that has instant speed uncounterability printed on it. This card is outrageously good. In the 4-drop slot, you have 2 Verdicts. And that's kind of a key component that you want to see in Dreadnought decks if they can support it. Like blue-red, there's no such Wrath. But if you can run 2 Wraths, particularly a reliable one like Verdict, you probably should.
Yeah,
Verdict is important because it pitches to Force as well, and it just destroys Delver.
And because we're running a blue-red deck as well, and this is the main contention, right? That we don't have a good way of removing a large board or troublesome creatures, and the Verdict is just awesome.
Yeah, and we say that, like 2 or 3 times a league, and this is where we wish we had Verdict in our deck and they could cast it.
yeah, definitely. And Karn?
Next up, you got Karn. One of the most important things when you see a Karn is that it does not automatically go with Lattice in the sideboard. That is only true of a Soul Land deck. If you see people doing that without Soul Lands, they're probably wrong. Karn is very important because there is no way to surgical this deck. It will get you from any zone.
Yeah.
Use Surgical Dreadnought. I will find them. It doesn't matter so much. But the other thing is that it's total mana denial. So this is the hard control aspect of, if you leave me alone and I Karn you, I'm going to grab a Liquid Metal and I'm going to strip you down to nothingness.
Right.
In the 5-drop slot.
And let's just mention the passive ability of Karn is also that important, because it also means you don't need
the one-sided Null Rod.
Yeah. And you don't need to waste sideboard slots for artifact decks, because it's already built in the main deck.
Yeah. That's the other thing I see a lot, is when people play Scroll of Fate, they're like adding Null Rod to the sideboard. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't be playing Null Rod and turning off your most important card. Maybe that's not what you should be doing, because there's a one-sided one.
Yeah.
That also beats Surgical.
Definitely.
The rest of the stuff is kind of normal. We talked about the Sharks, the Dragons, the Forces, of course. Then we have 1 Prismatic Ending. And again, Prismatic Ending it's just going to be fine in a 2-color deck. It's always going to be okay. We're just playing 1.
It's our last addition to the deck, to be fair, and it's been good though. I mean, it answers a lot of problematic permanents, and the one thing that we have been having a talk about is that we only can go up to 2 CMC permanents, which is unfortunate. Would have been great to go up to 3, but it is what it is, and we don't want to dilute the mana base.
Yeah, I think compromising the mana would be too much of a cost.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's really important about being on a 2-color deck like this is if you look at those Hall of Storm Giants again, understand between the Hall of Storm Giants and the Azcanta, we really don't actually care at all about choke. You can bring that into your deck, and you can dilute your deck with choke.
Yeah.
We're just going to ignore it. We don't need a prismatic ending it. We're just going to play through it.
Yeah. All right. The
yeah.
sideboard. So.
Yep, you go.
So what you got?
All right. So let's go with Karn targets first, moving over the Aethersworn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Aethersworn is a vastly better card than Deafening Silence. Now, Deafening Silence has had its uses in the format, but the chances are, if you're playing Deafening Silence, you have an atrocious matchup versus Elves, and Deafening Silence doesn't do anything to Elves.
Mm-hmm.
If you are playing Deafening Silence and you're scared of Veil of Summer, understand that a Veil of Summer deck can't profitably cast Veil of Summer between your first and second mana and somehow kill you. That's not a realistic expectation. So Aethersworn does those things. The very good card, and the fact of the matter is you can wish for it from Karn.
Yes, and it also
Incredibly
plays very well with the Scroll of Fate, right?
Yeah, and so Scroll of Fate, that's that copy in the sideboard with the Karn is copies 3 and 4. So we're playing 4 Scroll of Fates while only dedicating 2 slot.
Yes.
Next up, Crucible
let's
of
just
Worlds.
touch on the interaction here. If the opponent plays a card and you Scroll of Fate in an Aethersworn and flip it, they're done.
Yeah. So your opponent has to really be on top of it and almost be holding priority if it's their turn.
Mm-hmm.
They technically, if they cast a spell and you go tap Scroll of Fate, they have a chance to react to that, of course. But you can put your Aethersworn in face down. I'm hoping the lawnmower outside isn't too loud. Anyways, you tap Scroll of Fate, they can react to it.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in Aethersworn Canada's face down. They have priority. They're the active player on their turn.
Yeah.
But if they pass priority, which most people do because they don't have profitable plays at instant speed, you just flip over the Canonist and their turn's over.
Yeah. And that's just game over against a lot of decks.
Yeah.
All right. Going on, Crucible.
Crucible is just a very good card. It's a lot of people. This is another misbuild in Legacy, kind of like how people play 4 Dreadnoughts, and one of those should be at least a Karn. Anytime you see a Crucible in a main deck in Legacy, that should straight up be a Karn, and there should be a Crucible in the sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
Crucible is a powerful effect. It's not a main deck effect, however. It's very good against Post, very good against a whole lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Recycling Wastelands can always be pretty devastating.
Yes. And then we have the Torpor Orb.
Yeah, that one's for D&T. Except it's not really, right? It's for us. It's for our Dreadnoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But it also just destroys D&T and a number of other ETB based deck.
Yeah.
Alurin, Goblin. Well, it's not great against Goblins. Goblins is a Shatter deck, and they're on activated abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fine against Goblins because we have Cycle. Something you see a lot in Legacy is people throwing down a Torpor Orb that they probably shouldn't have in their deck because they don't play Dreadnoughts, and they bring it in, they slam it down against Goblins, and then Goblins just goes, okay, kill it with a Greater Maker or a Trash Master, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, seems like it would have been nice to have Stifle. Yeah, it kind of would be nice to play Dreadnought with your Torpor Orb.
Yeah.
Almost like it's supposed to be played like that.
Yeah.
So that's a weird play pattern that I don't really understand, but people like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Powder Keg.
Yes.
Powder Keg's a great card. This is an oldie but goodie. So the important thing about Powder Keg is it destroys man lands like Dryad Arbor.
Mm-hmm.
It destroys artifact lands like the Seat of the Synod.
Yes.
This card is wicked. It does not kill your own enchantments. It is a very polarizing card. It's a very fun card to play with. It's also very good. Let's see.
Yeah, and And it's like the EE effect, the engineered
Yeah.
explosive effect, but you have some benefit. It has some upside that the
Yeah,
engineered
it's a
explosive
very,
doesn't.
very different card than EE. And of course, engineered explosives, not exactly the best card when you're on two colors.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like doubling up a prismatic ending. It's not maybe the most effective thing you can do on two color.
Right.
Yeah, really good card. Hopefully, people that are interested in this card got it before it went up to $25 or whatever.
Yeah.
This card is worth about 50 cents.
Yeah.
Of the true value.
And then
Liquid metal coating.
Yes.
Yep, that's part of the hard control on Karn. Yeah, that's the card that's way, way more important than a lattice.
Right, because when you have the Karn down, you can start either going for his lands, but you can also lock down things straight away, and you can even get rid of troublesome permanents by making them creatures and blind them.
That's a good thing to point out, right? You can coat an enemy planeswalker, for example. You can +1, make it a creature. You can Karakas it to their hand because it's a legendary permanent. You could use it in the same way to animate your own Karn into an attacking creature, attack the player, and then bounce your own Karn to your hand. But yeah, just any troublesome permanent, make it an artifact, then make it a creature, then plow it out of the game.
Yeah, I mean a choke or whatever.
Yeah, that is an answer to choke and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. And then we have two different graveyard hates, the Crypt and the Relic.
Yeah, and I think that's the right amount. I think it's the right permanent type. I think that these are higher value cards than a surgical extraction or two. Relic of Progenitus is a card that you should see in any deck that even dares to use a Karn or an Urza's Saga. You absolutely need to be able to wish up value on cards like Karn and that Saga. Now, Relic might not be the best for the Saga decks because they use their graveyards for like Murktides and such. But Soul Guide Lantern is a good one. Phyrexian Furnace is fine. But yeah, this is the kind of card that should be in any list, in any 75, playing, those two cards to grab them.
Yeah, and the Tormod's Crypt, the main value of that is that it's 0 cost, right? So you can play the Karn and then immediately play the Crypt.
And I would say that, especially Tormod's Crypt is something that Tormod's Crypt and Liquid Metal Coating are two cards that must be in your sideboard. I would, if your colors support it, Aether's Torn as well. But these are like absolutely must be in your sideboard if you play Karn.
Definitely. And then this is a fun one, the Cursed Scroll. What's that all about?
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
The Cursed Scroll just deals with all kinds of fun little permanents. Mother of Runes, can check planeswalkers, can dome a player, and players don't really play around life point damage against blue-white, and this will correct that way of thinking pretty quickly. It's a very good card. Cursed Scroll is a lot of use to it. I think we wish for it at least once a league.
Yeah, definitely.
It's card worth its weight in gold.
You can machine gun through creatures. It can be a win con, and as you said, it's surprising when someone goes down to 1 point of life because they're playing against blue-white. You surprise them and deal that point of damage. So that's pretty sweet. All right, so if we leave
so basically, Cursed Scroll is like your Grim Lavamancer. Oh, we have some more cards. Goodness.
We have Ashiok.
So Mastery of the Unseen.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we can talk about Ashiok.
Yeah.
Ashiok is a card that is wildly underutilized in Legacy. There is probably 33% of the format is heavily searching their decks. This one goes out to all of the Green Sun Zenith players, crop rotation players, Post, who are trying to search with expedition maps, and the Eye of Eldrazi, Eye of Ugin, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Who else? The Crop Magus, Elvish Reclaimer.
And fetch lands.
Anyone?
You can also hit the fetch lands, right?
Yes. Yeah, of course, fetch lands are a good one. You can stop a veteran explorer.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty sizable swath of Legacy, though, that really does search their libraries. Entomb, of course, another classic search. Yeah, and this card will actually mill out a post player through their Emrakul triggers, because it just put them in the graveyard, 4 cards, exile them immediately. After your graveyard's in exile, you can shuffle your non-existent graveyard into your library. You lose Emrakul forever.
Definitely. Okay, so then we have the Mastery. Do we need it when we're running Scroll of Fates?
Yeah, Mastery is it's a card that's still it's the original reason for the deck. So there's a lot of nostalgia there, but it actually is a quite a good card, and the fact that it has life gain on it can be pretty meaningful as well. There's nothing nastier than being against someone who has Mastery of the Unseen, ripping cards off the top of the deck, while the Scroll of Fate is taking the cards they actually draw on the draw step and dumping them into play. It just gets so far out of hand very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a big thing, and that was also a discussion when in the previous format, when Oko was still around. Life gain was the big issue, right? When we were playing Blue-Red Delver, we had a hard time keeping up with the bolts and the early aggression. So the life gain is a nice buffer to get that extra turn, so that we can control the game and get a win, right?
Yep. The card's still quite good. Humility is a mandatory. If anyone here is playing Moat, just please, for the love of God, take that card out of your deck and sell it. It's garbage.
Yes.
I can't tell you how important it is to not reward people for playing Bristlebrand or Emrakul or Sanctum Prelate. These people are apes. Treat them like such. Just humility them. Stop giving them a way back into the game.
Yes. And
Moat will not take you.
And
you will blow 4 mana at sorcery speed and you'll lose because of it. Stop playing Moat.
And the best feeling is when you let, even if you can counter it, you let the show and tell resolve, and you let the humility in, and whatever creature they let in, it's just garbage.
Oh yeah, nice 1/1 Gristlebrand and Emrakul.
Yes, it's been, and we bring it in a lot. I mean, it's in against most decks, really.
And the other thing that to understand about Humility is that it's a velocity positive card for Dreadnought. Humility makes Dreadnoughts. It cheats the trigger. And when you play something like Teferi, just, okay, I guess I'll make a Dreadnought if I have nothing better to do, into Humility. Do you want to do something about it? Yes, no, don't care. Okay, my turn, you didn't do anything about it. Bounce Humility. It's a 12/12. Take 12. Play Humility again, protected by Teferi passive. Have a nice life.
Yeah, it's winning a lot of games. It's just an amazing card, and the other added benefit is Hall of the Storm Giants and other manlands keeps being 7/7s or whatever, and that's really big game against a lot of 1/1s.
Just to make sure everyone understands that, Hall of Storm Giants becomes, right? It's not that it is, it becomes. So Humility is a layer, and you are becoming a second layer on top of that layer. When you animate Hall of Storm Giants on top of a Humility, it is a 7/7 Ward 3. It is the biggest creature on board.
And all the other creatures, wherever they are from, they're 1/1s, so it doesn't matter. So that's a big difference. All right, so finally we have 2 removal spells. We have Porphyry Nodes and Suspend. So talk about them.
Porphyry Nodes, like the very floor of this card, is you board out a Plow against Show and Tell. They go for a turn 0 Show and Tell. They dump in an Emrakul, and you dump in Porphyry Nodes. Like that. That's really all you need to know about Porphyry Nodes. But yeah, Porphyry Nodes is also very good at chewing through, garbage on the board, like Baleful Strix and Ice Fang. Because decks that play those kind of cards love to have like 2 or 3 of them in play, and so just being able to clean them up nicely and being able to reset that wrath, that deliberate slow wrath with like Sevin's Reclamation, becomes pretty important.
Mm-hmm. And it's great against the Mother of Runes and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. It'll kill Mother Runes, it'll kill a Progenitus, it'll kill a tree named Nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
Protection does not help.
Right. And this is also kind of our last card in the sideboard, which is Suspend. Mm-hmm. And it could be other things, but this is our current understanding of the format, right?
Yeah. And so Suspend is a really funny card. It attacks and defends. So one thing that's really funny with Suspend, especially in like a blue-red build, is that you can just take like the Super Chandra, the uncounterable one, mm-hmm. and you can just manifest that as a 2/2 with a Scroll of Fate. So that's, after the Scroll of Fate, that's just free. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, you're trying to kill my 2/2 Chandra face down mm-hmm. that you don't know about? Suspend it.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to have in 2 turns? An uncounterable Chandra. I'm going to cheat mana.
Yes.
So this will cheat Planeswalkers. It'll cheat any permanent you want into play. That's just on the kind of like the full-on offense mode. Mm-hmm. It can, of course, it can save one of your guys for a little bit, and it comes back later. But the other thing is that it gets rid of their guys.
Yes.
So it gets rid of Mirror Mage tokens forever. And then if you have a Teferi down, that creature isn't coming back.
Exactly.
And if you have a Standstill down, if you go, suspend your guy, here's my Standstill. This isn't normal suspend. You don't get an option to cast a suspended card. Like, no, you're casting that.
Yes.
That's a fourth cast.
So you can force your opponent to trigger the Standstill. And the Teferi passive, of course, makes it impossible to cast. So it has a lot of utility, but it's a bit conditional. So it's not for every matchup. But if you can see, there are many great scenarios for it. But
the card is hilarious.
Yes. But it works. It's basically for the. I mean, the main reason we're running it is for Merit Lage, right? But there are others.
For Merit Lage, right? And it's because that would we prefer to play a Prismatic Ending? Yeah, sure, but we're 2 colors. But this is based on what we're doing, the next best thing.
And it's an instant, so that's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you wanna have a look at the game that we were thinking about?
Yeah, we can start with that one.
Yeah. So let's see. It was against Cartesian, right?
Yep.
So you wanna look at the first one first?
Yeah, we can do the first one.
Yeah.
So something that people don't really get, and you can see a lot of the discussion on the source, is people really love this idea of Stifle Knot, where they make sorcery speed dreadnoughts with like dress down. It's summoning sick. They pass the turn. And it just loses because they pass the turn into opponent who gets to draw a card, untap, play a land, and never get hit by Daze. Mm-hmm. Which, of course, all these Stifle Knot decks run Daze that will never protect their Dreadnought. It doesn't make a damn bit of sense, but that's what they do. At least in this one, Cartesian listened to me and he put in Scroll of Fate. But we're going to kind of see the problems with playing Stifle Knot rather than actual card advantage. And so it really comes down to this is what Standstill does with Dreadnought, and what you're doing with Ponder, not quite good enough. Mm-hmm. And so you can just you should be able to feel this idea that at no point is Cartesian in control of his own destiny here.
Right. So, again, because when we saw this hand, we didn't know what we were playing against. So, this starting hand, what do you think about it?
I think this hand's great. We've got our lands, we've got our Wrath, so we can just whoop up on Delver pretty easily. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is we've got our mana,
yes.
Right? And
we would have loved we would have loved a force effect just for a combo, but you can't mulligan for force effects, right?
Yeah, you play 6 forces. You don't need to. You're not really going to win a game because you aggro pondered into a force of will. and then you, I don't know, cast that Force of Will into a Daze. Like that's not a good legacy play.
Right.
But if it makes you feel more secure, by all means, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So we keep this. So we still we don't know anything, and we got the Force.
Yeah. So we're just doing this, and we're deliberately playing the Prismatic Vista to Sinkhole Stifle in the blind.
Since
we just wanted to.
Yeah, because we have so many lands in our hand, we don't mind playing a little bit of a slower game.
Yep. Yeah. If he wants to pretend he's going to hit this land with the Stifle, he can continue to do that. Thing in the ice.
Yeah. Is that a card in Legacy?
Really? It's a card with Dreadnought, right? It works with Scroll of Fate.
Yeah.
The moment you see this, you don't necessarily know it's a Dreadnought deck. You should understand that it has a high likelihood of that. But you should really be saying that this deck is either some kind of Dreadnought deck, or it is somewhere between Blue-Red Delver and that Dreadnought deck.
Yeah.
It exists somewhere in this spectrum.
We find the Stifle, and we play the Hall because it's if you play it later, it's gonna become tapped. So we want to have that in.
Yeah.
And we can protect it with a Stifle.
Super important play coming up right here that we're gonna make. Yep. The fetch land. You don't fetch here, you die. You lose the game. Yes. So this is Stifle playing for days. We are baiting a wasteland with intention.
Yes, and more often than not, we fetch aggressively to avoid getting stifled, unless we want to provoke that. Yeah.
Oh. I was going to say, was that Expressive Iteration? Not a very good card. He at least got to make a land drop out of it, but just be very aware that when his deck it does play Daze, like when you play Daze, this kind of divination effect is not going to be fun for you when you're picking up lands or getting wastelanded. It ends very poorly.
So what is our plan here, you think?
Plan here? So we're just really going for interaction out of them. So it's obviously we're going to lead out the island. Yeah, you don't want to play plains. That's your verdict. If you play Tundra, you're probably losing the game. But yeah, you have some choices here, right? You can say, show me your days right now with a Sevin's Reclamation, targeting the Prismatic. That's a perfectly reasonable line. You can tell them to waste their hand on days or forcing a Teferi. Or you can just play a standstill and say that you don't have anything and you cannot get any kind of flash creature into play.
Right. And I do think we went for the Teferi here.
I think so too.
To see it. And we actually got it to resolve.
Yeah. Which I think the opponent...
Sorry, I had to kill a bug.
I'm not sure what he was thinking.
Yeah, so we just bounced the thing in the ice, and we were kind of happy about this.
Yep. So again, here comes the problem with playing Daze and 2-drops. You're tapping yourself out of mana. Nice Unholy Heat. Not going to work.
We protect it just for the hell of it. And now we have instant speed breath if we want it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just the easiest standstill you'll ever cast in your life.
Yeah.
Notably tapping on basic. And notice that with Teferi passive, you can't stifle our fetches anymore. So again, we don't have any reason to really do anything. Like, this is a fun play, just to wasteland him, because we can. But yeah, we're just chilling. Like, yeah, it's your job.
Yeah, exactly.
Make me do something.
We're kind of happy just chilling.
Yeah, and so this is what people don't get, I think, when they're playing Stifle Not Less, is this is how you play against Stifle Not. You just don't do anything.
And he starts discarding, yeah. And suddenly we're one land away from activating the Hall of the Storm Giants.
Yeah.
he goes, trying to kill the Teferi, and we
Or
can't.
just like,
Yeah, we can't.
yeah,
do
sure,
it.
why not? Had to do that on his turn, so he's tapped out a red. They tapped out a Stifle. Awesome. Yep. You have a thing in the ice. A lot of ways to play this turn. There's so much mana. Again, we're just establishing more and more and more mana, making sure that Daze is less and less and less and less of a card.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
We go for the
number of ways you
events.
can do this.
And
Yep, here just lose your hand. Yep.
Okay. Sure.
So the opponent loses everything.
He's down
And
to 5.
we just say, yeah, and there's no reason to jam anymore. We'll sit back, we'll chill. You got no pressure.
And if he wants to commit to the board, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You're playing Scroll of Fate, and this is one of the problems with playing Scroll of Fate is you damn well better have an answer to Karn. And the opponent's going to learn that the hard way.
And we find a Dreadnought.
Yep.
So here's the Karn, and he forces. We go for
which is awesome for us.
Yeah. We just let that go.
Yep. Here's a Dreadnought. Your 12/12's not bigger than mine, and you just blew 2 forces. So why don't you just tap that scroll and make a 12/12 and tell yourself it matters?
Okay, so here he goes for trying to flip the thing in the ice.
Yep. Trying to get our Dreadnought off the table. I mean, it's a forced line. He can't do anything else here. That's one too many Volcanics in his deck. He doesn't have enough red to justify that.
Yeah.
All right, here's Prismatic Ending. Very importantly, we're going to cast this for X equals 2.
Mm-hmm. On the manifest, yeah?
Correct, yeah. And again, one of those things about playing a Stifle Knot deck is that you actually you have to basically play your Dreadnought first. You don't really get a choice. They just, because they don't have card advantage, they can't do anything else.
Yeah.
So here he's hard casting Daze for no value.
Just to flip the thing in the ice.
Yep.
So we...
and that, of course, makes a trigger.
Yeah. And we stifle
Oop.
that.
And this will get rid of the rest of his hand.
Yeah. So
Good.
here's the force.
And that's all of his force is gone. He's down to pretty much nothing in hand. We just brainstorm because, why not?
So we let this go. He has an awoken horror, fine.
Yep.
And then
You got a mana floating from somewhere. Anyways,
Yeah.
here's a verdict, so he doesn't get a one-shot. And again, he'll play his Dreadnought face down. But again, if you aren't counting to 20 with a blue-red Stifle Knot deck, well, which you can't because you're not Dreadstill, it doesn't matter that you hit me for 12. You're not going to burn me out.
Yeah.
This is a huge punt by him. Tapping that at sorcery speed is just beyond atrocious.
Yeah, that probably cost him the game.
Yeah, that was just pitiful.
And now we look at our hand. Keep the 2
Go back
dreadnoughts.
to the lands. Yeah, completely unforced error over there.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
very strange that people know how to play Ether Vial and to wait till your opponent's end step, but my god, if you make that card called Scroll of Fate, everything out the window.
so here we got a Karn, and we can wish for our own Scroll of Fate, right?
Yep.
And we know
This
that
is a mistake here that we kept the Force of Will in our hands with the Brainstorm. That was pretty bad. Because
Yeah.
this should be a
Dreadnought.
Dreadnought to block a Dreadnought.
Mm-hmm. That could have cost us the game if he had a Dreadnought here, right?
Yeah, so this is punt, counter punt.
Yeah.
Um,
But he goes for the Karn, which is great for us.
yeah.
Because now we do have the Force of Will plus a Dreadnought.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't use his Scroll of Fate.
Yeah. And this is the issue, right? If you're playing Scroll of Fate and you don't have answers to Karn,
Yeah.
it's not a good look. And here's Ponder, like, this card is not going to save you. What are you going to grab? You're going to grab a Dreadnought. It's the only thing you can grab.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
And you can't play the Dreadnought.
Nope, you can't play it. You have to wait. And right here, we don't animate our factory, our Storm Giant, because then we could just get bolted. So we're just going to hold up for Hardcast Force of Will.
Yeah, exactly.
What could he possibly be digging for, chat?
Yeah.
What indeed?
All right.
Holy heat, sure.
So now he can get his Dreadnought in.
He's hellbent, and he's dead on board.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yep. We play that card too.
Yeah. And game over. So that was the first
Yeah, and he
game.
actually has another Dreadnought right here, but it doesn't matter. And this is an important thing to see. Just look at the amount of cards in their hands. They've got 0. I want you to recognize how much Ponder did not help them and how much it contributed to their downfall here.
And how great Hall of Storm Giants is.
Yeah.
That's actually the only man land that could accomplish this, right? 5 damage.
Yeah. And so he's dead.
Yeah.
And we can see so he does have to reveal, and that is a Dreadnought. And we knew it. But again, we're not surprised and we're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, should be understanding the problems with the Stifle Knot. You just let your opponent sit back and they play lands, and your Dace isn't going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
So the best protection against Dace is just play your lands.
Yeah. And then, what are they going to do with Unholy Heat? Burn out your life total?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make a Dreadnought. What are you doing?
Yeah, and you're playing Divinations and Ponders, and which doesn't really... it helps fix your mana, your deck construction, that you're playing too few lands. But other than that, it doesn't... it's just you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
All right. So second game, which is, well,
I think that there was a lot of lag in this one. We had a lot of trouble with the actual MTGO client.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Cartesian will, just as a spoiler, win this on time, but he will be very much deterministically dead.
Yes. And to be fair, we could have taken a lot of decisions that didn't make us lose on time. We could have just F6'd and just won. But
because we'd have to win 2 games in a row on 5 minutes.
We tunnel visioned on winning the game, but whatever.
Yep.
So let's see. A good hand.
Yeah, this is a great hand. Again, why would I ever want to tap out of Stifle to play a Ponder with a hand like this?
Mm-hmm. So we start. Why didn't we start with the fetch this time?
There's no reason. I'd here, because I don't have a secure source of blue, I want him to be tapping down out of Stifle.
Yeah.
Because he's shown me that he's playing two mana cards like Thing in the Ice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not gonna incentivize them to sit there and try and make this a weird days game.
Right, because there would be very few occasions where we would actually use the swords, right?
Yeah.
Alright, you can brainstorm, that's fine. He keeps up his blue, so we
Yeah.
play the Hall because we want that to be untapped.
Mm-hmm.
And
we were thinking here about playing Mastery of the Unseen. It's not an unreasonable play, but we just think better of it. There's not really a compelling reason to use the mana that way. If they want to wasteland this, we'll just brainstorm.
Yeah, I think we were thinking about setting him back on lands for tempo reasons, but we decided against it. Thing in the Eyes, fine. Doesn't do anything.
Yep, you have a 0/4. And it's also really bad that card dies to Pyroblast. Not to mention Prismatic Ending. It doesn't end well for you. Yep, when we're just not playing into Stifle, he casts Divination. It's a very cool card.
So more fetch lands, more...
Nice Ponder, but Ponder is not card advantage. He's at least cleaned up his mana base, I'll give him that. He listened to my suggestion to play Vistas. He was trying to play crappy fetch lands before this. He was also playing 4 Volcanics, which is just completely inexcusable. But he looks like he's moved down to 2. That should really just be 1. But
playing 4 Volcanics is just flexing your wealth, isn't it?
It's just no reason, Legacy is expensive, Reserve List is going up. Why are we advertising non-optimal mana bases that cost $800 more?
So here we decide...
Or $800 per Volcanic.
Here we decide that Thing in the Ice, for mana efficiency, we just get rid of it, right?
Yeah, because why not? We're on his Insta. He wants to fight it, sure. Flipping it into a 7/8 is still the same object. It's not going to get away. He might gain some life, but it really doesn't matter.
And we continue playing fetches. We don't have the pressure to do anything.
Yeah. Again, why would we? It's not my job to win the game.
Yeah.
It's.
And we ship it. We have some great plays, but let's let him first. So he dresses down.
And so we'll see what we got. There's a verdict, so we know that he's going to make a sorcery speed summoning sick Dreadnought.
Yeah.
Or something, and it's just not going to matter.
So you can have a Dreadnought, that's fine. Yes. So he commits a Dreadnought, and now we need to start checking what kind of mana do we have access to. So we start cracking our fetches to see if we can do Teferi and Supreme Verdict.
Yeah. So we just go to see, what you got over there. And then this is a Tundra on the last one. Yeah, and it's just like, okay.
We start with the Teferi to see if that resolves. And
it says Teferi to Torak. He wastes his card. That's fine.
So then we just get rid of the Dreadnought.
Yeah. Boom. Probably should have tapped down the island instead of the wasteland, but the fact of the matter is the opponent can't play 2 wastelands in the same turn. So. Yep, and here's just another Teferi to Torak. Notice we're tapping our non-basics versus what might be a wasteland deck. Sure. Pay more.
So he uses another... I don't remember. Did he force this one?
I think this is I think it's Brazen Borrower that doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Nice 3-1.
So we just... Oh! Yeah.
Yeah, this was the...
So he went for a Flusterstorm and he wanted to up the storm count with a Brazen Borrower, but I think he must have miscounted or something because we still had mana to pay for it.
The thing is that it was never going to get better, and this is just Flusterstorm is not a card that you're allowed to play in Legacy unless you can generate scenarios where it can actually be live. His deck can't. He has to tap out. He's playing Divination. That costs 2 mana. He's tapping out with Ponder. He's playing 2 mana Thing in the Ice. He's playing 3 mana Scroll of Fate. at no point are you ever, if I just play correctly, is that Flusterstorm ever going to hit me?
Mm-hmm. So there's the bolt, fine. And here we find the humility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll just cast that because we can.
And then we play the mastery. And then we shift the turn. And at this time, we're starting to be a little pressed for time. And the client is really not cooperating. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Because we were way ahead on time. But what we should have done here is basically just F6. Make him waste his time.
Yeah.
Or attack with the Hall of the Storm Giants eventually.
Yeah.
So here we try to land.
And again, his only win con is actually the combat step. It's not going to work. Fire Blast, sure. Humility.
So he's got a bunch of 1/1s.
Scroll of Fate, nice, you can make 1/1s. Again, unfortunately, you didn't actually design your deck against Karn. That's not a good card either. You just tapped out all your mana.
Mm-hmm. And
what is he hunting for? Well, he's hunting for a Dreadnought. I already know what he's hunting for. What is he going to play? A Dreadnought. Why? Because he can't play it any differently.
Yeah.
Out of fetchables, so he's playing 4/1, 4 islands, 1 mountain.
Mm-hmm. And here's the
Scroll of Fate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
we just because he's playing Unholy Heat, we just minus the Karn.
Yeah.
Yep, we got ourselves a nice Cursed Scroll. Play land. It's a good time to crack it.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to play Brainstorm. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about drawing 3 cards.
Right, and here we're gonna come into a punt on our end, or on my end, I should say, because here he's attacking, and there are just a bunch of 1/1s going to our face, and when he bounces the humility, we should definitely react, because this could have been just a straight up loss.
Yeah. Yeah, so right here the play is you activate Scroll of Fate, or
Curse Scroll.
Curse Scroll.
Yeah.
You target their face down guy who's a 1/1,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just nuke it for 2, and there's really nothing they can do about it.
Right. But there were some issues here, so it did not happen. But luckily, it didn't matter any much. I think actually it would have been better for us to lose here, though, because we would have won. Because of time. So it would have been better if he actually had it. And then we rolled the dice and tried to hit the Brazen Borrower and actually managed.
Name Standstill. Dang. Let them know what's coming their way.
Yeah. Scroll of Fate.
Here's a Humility. Here's a Standstill.
And there's a Borrower, and now we wish for a card, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I think they bolted us, yeah. That didn't make much sense.
I think
they were probably dead on board if they bolted our face.
Mm-hmm.
But again, a lot of that comes down to the weird scroll management. We should be alive there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got
a 3/3. So right here, yeah, is where we should be animating our
Hull.
We should be animating our Scroll of Fate. Well, we should animate the Scroll of Fate as a 3/3 blocker, which we did. We should be attacking with our Hull.
Yes.
And then we should be holding Standstill as a manifest.
And we would have won easily. But instead, we started kind of wasting time by making 1/1s with the mastery. Which
so the idea of this line is that we are salvaging the life loss from the kind of the punt play. And we're going to use a Dreadnought to gain life when it's advantageous.
Yeah. Which would have been a fine play if we didn't have a minute left on the clock.
Yep.
but we're not losing this game.
Yeah, he's locked out.
Yeah. Since we have, and the reason why he can't find a bolt is because we have the Scroll of Fate and a Dreadnought, so we can flip it to gain life.
Yep.
In response, in addition to the Force of Will, of course. I don't know why.
Is it frozen? Okay, nice, it's going.
Yeah.
Yep, so again, every one of these guys that we make is not only an attacker, but it represents one life gain.
Mm-hmm.
No other card does what Master of the Unseen does.
But as you can see, the clock is moving really fast, and it was Modo was just slowing down to a snail pace. So in the end,
we gain life. We're up to 7 now, and this game's over. Like he's locked out. There's nothing he can draw into. There is no possible card in his deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the end result was unfortunate, but how we played it, we stand by it. It was a great way of dismantling his deck.
Yeah, and at no point did his deck did it have anything meaningful going on. It's really important to understand that. A lot of people don't really grasp that, what I'm talking about, and how bad Ponder is in decks like these, and just what a huge liability it is, and the types of play patterns it locks you into.
Right.
You start doing this Ponder days nonsense, like, you better be getting on board like a Delver deck. You better be hitting with Ragavan, Dragon Rage, Delver, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta clock them.
Yeah. And to be fair, there is a blue-red Dreadstill deck that can exist. It's just not in this sort of shape, right? It's a more aggressively slanted one.
Yeah. No, it's the actual blue-red Dreadstill is it's a mean deck. Its combo is counting to 20, and it doesn't care how it does it. It's a very good deck for Urza's Saga, which blue-white is not. Blue-white, if you're playing Tundra, there's a very high chance that Saga should not be in your deck. You just can't afford losing land drops.
Right.
But Dreadstill, blue-red got way better with the addition of 2 Saga.
Correct, yeah. So I mean, we're not bashing on the attempt of playing a blue-red Dreadstill, that's fine, but you can't be playing as if you were something else. I mean, you're not fixing your hand for a big combo turn or whatever. It's a different type of deck that could use Ponder like that, right?
Yeah, and again, his mana base is actually, like, in his defense, his mana base is actually good enough to not require him to play Ponder. And every time you see him cast a Ponder, you know exactly what he's digging for. There's no mystery. There's no side steps he can make, because he's just turning a Ponder or a Brainstorm, whatever, into a Dreadnought.
Yeah.
He can't be doing that.
So what is your thought about the dress down for Dreadnought? I mean, we're running 1, and I'm assuming he's running 4 or 3 at least.
One of the most important things with blue-red Dreadstill to understand is that one of the best things you can be doing is that Urza's Saga. And what I mean by best things is not 4 of, not 3 of, but 2 of. Again, we've been waiting for 20 years to get rid of 3 factories for 2 man lands. They gave us those with Saga, and we got to go up to a second mountain. And you did see us miss fetch on the second mountain because he didn't play it.
Yeah.
But there are so many, you win so many more games, or you don't lose so many more games, because that mountain wasn't a second volcanic. Mana will kill you. I can't make that clear enough, that mana will kill you in a standstill deck if your mana is bad.
Yes.
You can't skip on Saga, and you can't go all in on it either. Again, Saga is hugely important in terms of power on its own,
Yeah.
But if you're playing Dress Down, and you're playing more than 2 Dress Down, you're going to have to cast those Dress Downs at some time, which means that you have a high chance of killing your own Saga tokens.
Yeah.
You can't be doing. And when you play 4 Dress Downs, as much as you might like the card, you definitely have to cast them, and you definitely can't play Saga effectively.
Mm-hmm. And to his defense, with the choice of Dress Down, we didn't never see a Saga from his deck, so we actually never saw a Manland, so maybe he's not running any, which seems like a weird choice. But
well, I don't think it's a weird choice without Standstill, right? Like, the only thing that would be worth running in his deck would be Saga, but if he's going to wipe his own tokens with the Dress Down, he can't be doing that. There's also, I don't think he was playing Stifle either.
We didn't see it anyway.
But yeah, even if he was, we would just be shredding his hand with lands, and look at how many extra lands we have.
Yes. And another point I would like to make is that our deck is also very good against Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast, because a lot of our bangers are actually not blue, like Humility or Karn or Scroll of Fate. So we're not playing into his... We don't need to play into the Pyroblast effects, which is very, very nice.
Yeah. And just so everyone understands kind of how this game is going to go, like, not only is he just going to get trampled to death by 1/1s, it's going to get actually much worse, because on our next untap step, and remember, we have Force of Will backup because we are not forcing Unholy Heat. On our next untap step, we're just going to put in a Timeless Dragon face down. We're going to flip it up, and we're going to gain, let me see, because we would have made 2 more guys here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 life.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at 15 in our next upkeep.
Yeah. And just to give a little bit of context, this was actually the one game we lost in this league, so if we would have won, we would have possibly 5-0'd with the deck. We have been playing this for the last couple of days, and I think this is the third 4-1 in a row. The deck is doing very well.
This is a hidden 5-0. Yeah, this deck is. Let me see, against meta decks, like the tier 1, tier 1.5 stuff, we are at this point 4, 8, 12. And again, we're 10 at the last. I'm trying to think of how many meme decks we fought. I don't think there's been many. I think the only meme decks are this Dreadnought deck that he's playing, and Slivers.
Yeah, Slivers.
But every other game that we've played,
we've
won every single game except for one against D&T. We split D&T, we're 1-1 against them.
Yeah.
So that is 15 games, so that's 13 games. So we are 12-1.
Yeah. And it's felt great against many of the meta decks. And Blue-Red Delver is actually it's a good matchup, I think. It feels
I think it's
comfortable.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Which is nice. And I mean, against the combo decks, you have the 6 force effect, you have the Canonist, and you have a lot of ways to deal with them. And you can go aggressive. You can have the turn to Dreadnought, kill them quickly. You can go for the long control game. You can go for the mana denial. You have a lot of different ways to play the matchups, which is just fantastic. It feels very elegant and flexible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is we're coming up on a 5-0 soon, I hope.
Yeah, this deck is it's mean. The other thing I will say is that the thing that most blue-white decks are going to suffer from is life gain. White is supposed to be the life gain color. It's the worst life gain color in Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually put it behind red with the printing of Hada, I think the Planeswalker is.
Don't know what that
which is. It's like Kess mana, right? It's like a Grixis and a colorless, and it, I don't know, there's like some +1 that you gain 2 life, and it's on Grixis mana. And that's like kind of like better than anything you can be doing in white to gain life.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny, but when you Swords of Dreadnought and gain 12,
that's that's the thing.
That's something that other white decks cannot compete with.
Mm-hmm.
Other blue-white decks, rather.
Yeah, that can really flip a tight race. So that's a thing. So great talk about the deck and this matchup. And as we said, if you're interested in working with us on the deck, just find us on the source, or write a comment or a message or whatever. Find us, and you can join us in the Discord and discuss the deck. Be awesome to be more Dreadstill players, and we will soon conquer the legacy metagame. Yeah.
Yep,
Hopefully.
I think so. I think we got him on the back foot. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, long and short of it is, if you're trying to build a Dreadnought deck, please, for the love of God, don't put Ponder in your deck. You're almost certainly making a mistake you'll never recover from.
Yeah, that's right. All right, folks. Thank you,
right,
and
GG.
talk to you later. GG's.